plant yams. The students will help harvest them and bring some of the food back to feed the people in the cities. But the land here is barely fertile. The waterways are polluted because of the nearby oil fields. Keith hits the road again, heading deeper into the Niger Delta. The next day he arrives in Port Harcourt, the commercial centre of the oil industry. Just across the road from its multi-billion-dollar refinery, thousands of people live in squalor and poverty. The community elder, Igwe Ijurei, says that life has progressively deteriorated since Royal Judge Shaw came here in the 1960s.
We are not benefiting because our country even prefer carrying up people from here to another country. Yes.
Even with the price of oil going up, you are not getting the benefits.
No benefit, nothing.
He says there's no health care, no school, no clean water, no clean air. Nothing but the constant glare of oil flares burning 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Is there a way where we wrote letters to somebody, or we did something like something peaceful that would get the attention?
Yeah, actually we are annoyed because we are hungry.
Right.
Because a hungry man is a hungry man.
We want you to have this book for your community, and this is our philosophy, and it tells you how to make a lot of food, 100 people. But we will also, Inca and others will come and support you.
Thank you so much.
Back in Lagos, Keith buys the students the equipment they need to get Food Not Bombs off the ground.
We need one for cooking. Yeah, we get one people. Where do we go for that?
He believes the anti-war movement will one day prevail. It's this belief that's kept him going for 26 years and has made him dedicate his life to peace.
I'm pretty optimistic that we have put the brakes on the aggression of America, and that it would have gone even more further and in a more terrifying direction had we not been able to mobilize masses of people on a regular basis to resist the policies of the Bush administration.
This opposition isn't stopping the Americans from going to war with these countries.
It may not have yet, but I think that it'll slow them down in their adventurism.
The day after Keith leaves, true to their word, the students serve up free food on the streets of Lagos. And it's all in the name of the new Nigerian chapter of Food Not Bombs.
We believe the sustenance of our democracy requires the most basic thing, and that is food. If people are given food, they will be able to reason. If people can reason, they will be able to act positively. And if people are able to act positively, then it will be upon them to contribute immensely to their society.
Made a lot of sense, that young fella. Food Not Bombs, filmed and reported there by Liz Tardich, with the US government having just requested a $70 billion budget hike for Iraq and the war on terror. It's fair enough to say that the Food Not Bombs message is almost certain to fall on deaf ears in the White House and the Pentagon. As always, any comments about tonight's program, leave them on our website, sbs.com.au/Dateline. Get transcripts there as well. That's it from us, here for another week. Till next time, see you.
That's it. Is that? Does anybody have any questions? The sustenance of democracy. Does anybody have any questions or comments? And does everybody know how to get involved with Lawrence Food Not Bombs? You don't? Somebody should say how to get involved with Lawrence Food Not Bombs.
We're here throughout the week. We have meals Thursdays and Saturdays, Thursday evenings and Saturday mornings. We also take donations, both monetary for for different supplies like Tupperware containers, or we're looking at a new bike trailer to take our food down to the park. Or volunteer with us for our meals or other special events. Or if you grow food, if you know where to get food, we have lots of farmers and gardeners around the town who supply us with local fresh produce, different items. You can talk to me, Connie, here with the camera, Sam, over here, Josh, at the computer, or just tag any of us if you want to hear more.
I want to clarify, when you said we're here, we cook here, we serve in South Park.
Yeah, you can find us on Facebook.
Oh, okay, cool.
I know a lot of food from grocery stores and restaurants and whatever goes to waste. Is there any organized effort for reuse or for use of that kind of produce? Because it's a huge amount of food.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 40% of the food is discarded in the United States.
Oh my God.
And oddly enough, Trader Joe's yesterday announced, or maybe 2 days ago on NPR, that they have this program where they're going to sell their discarded food at like discounted rates. And we've actually been, and they're going to start this new, I think it's called Food Table or something like that. And a bunch of people commented online about their story, mentioning that Food Not Bombs recovers food in over 500 cities in the U.S. and has for 33 years. Not all 500 cities, but in the last maybe 20 years, we've been doing about several hundred cities. And in fact, we recover food even in Kenya. At that mall, at Westgate Mall, there's a bakery, Portuguese bakery, and we would go every week. And so here in a country with starvation, you can recover food, which is pretty amazing. And now Second Harvest, or Feed America, and which for a short while was called Food Chain out of Kansas City, Missouri, they recover like boxed foods and things like that. But the issue of produce, which is huge, is something too hard for those large organizations to really manage. So they tend not to collect the produce. I don't know if you do you guys collect from the market, from the food co-op here? I know I used to years ago.
We get a lot of donations from local farms.
Oh, you just already have, so yeah, see right now we grow our own food. We get the food, in Taos we get there's one natural food store, Sid's. They're the only store that donates to us. They donate every day, and then the farmers market on Saturdays gives us all the food they can. So, and then also the like the CSAs, the community sustainable agriculture programs, also donate what their leftovers. But the Food Not Bombs is probably the largest gleaning operation of fresh food in the country. Yeah.
I watched Robert Reich on Bill Moyer's show Sunday, and this gets into the capitalism side of it. He said, we're reaching the tipping point as we did at the beginning of the 1900s and then in the Depression years. And by that, there'll be mechanisms within our republic, which we are not a democracy, that will right the ship somewhat. Now my question, he showed a stat that just blew my mind away. 400 people in this country, and I think he meant income, but he might have meant wealth, but 400 people capture half of the income / wealth of our whole country, and the rest of us get what's left over.
Yeah.
Slightly greedy. And I don't know quite what he meant by tipping point, but he thinks we're getting close. Do you know what he might have meant by that? And are we at a tipping point so we can start to get mechanisms rolling get wealth distributed more widely, and this goes right along with your efforts, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think, you know, that when we did Occupy, that's why we use the term 99%. You know, 99% of us are, you know, are struggling to just be within the economy. And I think the Obama administration was really freaked out by Occupy, as was corporate America. And unfortunately, it's hard for them to put the genie back in the bottle. I think a lot of people, you know, what our organizing effort for all these 33 years has been that, and I hear this all the time, people will come up to the Food Not Bombs table and go, oh my God, I thought I was the only one that thought this. But it turns out many people are thinking that something is wrong with our society. And while the super rich are kind of concealed, you know, from visibility, and people really knew how they were living, it would probably, you know, people would probably storm their castles. But I do think we're at a point where the political pressure could be insurmountable to the people in power, and that they're going to have to start, you know, like doing things like, instead of cutting food stamps like they're proposing now. I mean, that's incredible, $40 billion in 10 years from food stamps, and right now it's $31 a week that you get in food stamps, and it's millions and millions of Americans. And I get calls almost every a couple of times a week from people saying they haven't eaten in 7 days. Because we have this thing called the Hunger Hotline. And it's just really shocking how many people are going without. So the thing is that if it's possible to get Americans to realize that we do have shared ideas, and we are like facing, I know like so many people are living in houses that they had foreclosed on them. I just was in Santa Cruz, and I ended up, the 3 people I was talking to, one had been a realtor in Silicon Valley, and she just had lost a $2 million house. And her second property, she was stealing electricity from her tenant because she couldn't, and she was being evicted. She was foreclosing on her other property, and she had all these fancy paintings she was trying to sell at yard sales that were worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars, but no one wanted to buy them. And it turns out the other 2 people were also in a similar fix, had owned houses, had done really well, and there's like this kind of, in California, like a collusion between the county to red tag your house, and to work with the banks to force you out to get the houses for free, basically, from their owners. So I guess some future time they're going to resell them. And it was just shocking to meet these upper middle class people that were now having a discussion of which food bank was best to go to on what day. Don't take your better car because then people will look at you funny, stuff like that. Yet they were like, essentially homeless, So hopefully the thing is that people start to realize that there's many of us in the same boat. And in Taos, you see the people with the black fingers. It turns out those people they just could not afford heat, and their hands went frostbitten. And they eat with us, and you have a whole crew of people that have frostbitten fingers that eat Food Not Bombs. If we start to realize that this dynamic needs to change, there's a really interesting book called Regulating the Poor by Frances Fox Pittman, and she had another book, Poor People's Movements, and it talks about people getting together in the Great Depression to organize to transform society. And it's going to take a lot of pressure. And I know Obama originally, when he was running the first time, was like, well, you're going to have to make us do stuff. And we're going to have to make, we're going to have to be on the streets, organizing occupations. That's why I think the literature table is so valuable, because you can't, when you're doing the Food Not Bombs meal, it just, so many people come by and go, oh my God, I didn't think anybody else thought there was a problem of either hunger or so much money going to militarism and the surveillance and the police state, while we're doing without. So the tipping point, I think, is I think that people, people in power are worried about that, and you can see there was the documents that came out from this one organization sued for FOIA documents on what the FBI, Homeland Security, was doing to try to stop Occupy. And it's really fascinating. It's 198 pages. I have it on foodnotbombs.net website. It's from the Partnership on Constitutional Rights Fund or something like that. And it shows that that they were willing to shoot the leadership of Occupy with suppressed sniper rifles because they're afraid there would be a tipping point if they didn't do it.
I have to get an appointment. Can I encourage you to at least leave a few things with the office so I can look?
Yeah, I can do that. That'd be great. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for being here.
Great, thank you so much. Yes?
Yes, my question refers just to the United States. Why are so many poor people obese?
Okay, now the person that wrote the little statement for the front of my book, Raj Patel, has a book called Stuffed and Starved, I think it is. And the issue is the quality of food. There's also another book I just recently read by a farmer in Canada called The End of Food. So the problem is, in the United States, the quality of food is, particularly in poor neighborhoods with food deserts, is essentially full of salt and sugar. And so people, to get the same amount of nutrients in food, it takes a much larger volume. And as a direct result, people gain a lot of weight. They're eating a lot of sugar, they're eating a lot of salt, they're having to eat twice as much the volume just to get the nutrition that people really need. And so, to me, I think that's the main problem. Organic foods, and then in the larger problem is organic. You know, I'm an organic farmer. It takes time. You have to actually have people out in the fields cultivating the food and everything. It's not like mass-produced factory farming where you really have drawn all the nutrients out of the soil by over-fertilizing, over-chemicalizing the soils. And if organic farmers were being subsidized through a farm bill, and there's a big struggle now with the farm bill itself, in the same way that corn and soy is being subsidized, and that commercial farming is being subsidized, there would be much more nutritious food that would be more affordable. And then poor people would be able to buy organic food and it'd be more available. And it's just, I've been to parts of the United States where you can't find anything but a gas station to buy groceries out of, So I think that's the real issue. The other is that people have forgotten about nutrition. They will take their, like if someone was with their food stamps went and bought a 50-pound bag of organic rice and brought that home and used that every day, they would be doing so much better and buying organic produce. But people don't even, you can't take that on the bus or subway, things like that. So I think the way the whole system in the United States is organized is to a disadvantage of people to be able to eat nutritional food. And then also people are burned out on 3-4 jobs a day, so they're not like getting exercise, they're just doing these horrible tasks endlessly, and therefore they're not able to exercise. And so I think those are some of the factors that are against poor people being healthy. And hopefully the healthcare bill and stuff will, because taxpayers will be flipping the bill and a lot of that there'll be an interest in actually starting to worry about people's health on more of a national basis because of its detriment to people's well-being and the expense it will be to the people of the country.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Some of the people at the local Food Not Bombs have invented a cheer. I thought it was England. Connie said maybe it was one. It just goes ziggy zaggy ziggy zaggy Food Not Bombs. Ziggy zaggy Food Not Bombs.
That's good. Well, we have a lot of songs and cheers and paintings and all kinds of cultural Food Not Bombs things. So that's really cool. there a question over here? Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned the protests in Seattle. I know the group, Livia Campesina was also present. They have their food sovereignty set of principles of food sovereignty and how they problematize how the international community defines food security as simply an access to food. Can you talk about how you guys approach, food security and how the WTO defines food security and what are some of the issues underlying that?
Okay, yeah, you know what, a thing that was really graphic to me, and I've worked with the Viva Campesino a bunch, and I was like, they were very key in the protests at WTO in Cancun, for instance. They were like, and in fact, the agricultural, that was the way they're supposed to do. The WTO was supposed to, basically steal our rights from food. And part of what the WTO has done is open the door for companies like Monsanto to, and right now there's there's 2 trade agreements Obama is desperately trying to push through within the next, by actually January 1st. One that's trans-Pacific and one's transatlantic, which will essentially give up our rights to food sovereignty in the United States and in the countries that are signing this. And as a result, it would ban labeling laws on genetically modified foods. It would codify the relationship that farmers have now, where you have to get a bank loan or to get seeds. You have to agree to purchasing Monsanto and Pioneer and other corporate seeds, and you can't do seed saving and so on. And so when I was in Ethiopia, before the last leader passed away, you could see that there are 2 million people on the verge of starvation in Ethiopia, yet it was this amazingly abundant agricultural zone. You have the Blue Nile, goes right through Ethiopia. There was the most modern greenhouses I've ever seen, and huge truckloads of produce and food driving through the streets of Addis Ababa to the airport. But it was all being flown to Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Europe, and the people there didn't have access to the actual food that was being grown with their water, their soil, with their tax dollars, and they were like going hungry. And the same is the issue in Somalia. When Black Hawk Down, that incident where they made the movie, happened, there was a famine in Somalia, and 3 tons of fresh produce and food was being exported from Somalia for every ton of food aid coming into the country, of those little peanut butter cakes that people were eating. And this is the case, all throughout the entire world, where